Although the Americans had left Vietnam and a peace treaty had been signed, few Vietnamese believed that the war was over for them. The agreement had left 200,000 northern troops occupying strong positions inside the South. In Hanoi, the North's leaders decided that the first priority now was to rebuild their battered forces. They would avoid big battles and instead try to regain important ground with small attacks in areas where the enemy was weakest. At the same time, they would prepare for a future offensive on a gigantic scale. North Vietnamese commanders were determined that this campaign should not suffer the supply holdups that plagued the 1972 invasion. In Laos, the Ho Chi Minh Trail was modernized while engineers began building a proper two-lane road just inside South Vietnam. It would be able to take heavy trucks and tanks from the north to within 70 miles of Saigon. Engineers also began laying 3,000 miles of fuel pipeline planned to run from the demilitarized zone to the Mekong Delta. By the start of 1974, the North Vietnamese had rebuilt their divisions in the south. As yet, they were too weak to launch a full-scale offensive, but they had won some territory in key areas. The North Vietnamese Army used the spring and summer of 1974 to improve its position in South Vietnam. NVA commanders launched a series of strategic raids to regain the initiative and seize key pieces of territory. In 5 months of fighting, the North Vietnamese succeeded in gaining most of the ground they wanted. Their troops also gained valuable combat experience. Meanwhile, northern leaders argued about the timetable for the main offensive. At the 21st plenum held in Hanoi in October 1973, they decided to give priority to a military rather than a political offensive. While Giap remained chairman of the military committee, the day-to-day running of the army went to Văn Tiến Dũng. It was Dung who would plan and lead the final assault. They hoped that this offensive would bring, after 10 years of struggle, the final victory. By December 1974, the North Vietnamese Army's main supply route from the demilitarized zone to Loc Ninh was complete. The strategic raids had pushed the South Vietnamese Army towards the coast. Northern artillery now threatened several major cities. In the Saigon area, northern forces had gained ground on 3 sides of the capital. The new North Vietnamese plan was to try and seize Dong Xoa, a vital road junction controlling access to Saigon from the east. On December 26, 1974, the 7th NVA Division captured Dong Xoa. Next came diversionary attacks to pin down South Vietnamese forces. Phuoc Long, an important province and city, was now threatened by 2 NVA divisions and 2 infantry regiments, backed by tanks and artillery. The North Vietnamese forces encircling Phuoc Long city were more than 15,000 strong. Even after reinforcements had been flown into the city, the South Vietnamese defenders could muster only 5,500 men. The Southern Air Force was short of serviceable planes, and faced by heavy anti-aircraft defenses, it achieved almost nothing. By January 6, 1975, the North Vietnamese had overrun Phuoc Long city and the surrounding province. The loss of Phuoc Long was a disaster for the South Vietnamese.